How many downloads of Jim and Bill It's Another Day podcast?
Today, the podcast show has fetched 400 million downloads since its start, and an average of 350,000 downloads per episode, about 3.9 million downloads per week.
Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Well, I guess the thing that Joe said he would never do, never get involved with, he went to La La Land in Nantucket and did it.
Yep, he said, I will never pardon my son. Never, never, never. Oh, gosh, no, heavens, no. Actually, he did just that. And, initially, I thought it was just for specific things, but here's what it covers. It covers any federal crime by Hunter Biden from 2014 to 2024.
How many crimes did he commit, or how many crimes are they going to find?
It was a decade of crime. It was a crime spree. He said the pardon absolves Hunter of any possible drug involvement, sex trafficking, lobbying, bribery, foreign agent, or other crimes involving Ukraine and several other foreign governments or companies, including China. I mean, he covered the whole smorgasbord of crimes for Hunter Biden.
Well, they knew that they were going to go after him, and that would get to Joe.
Yeah. Well, I know it still can. It still can. I mean, here's the thing. From what I understand, Attorney Mike Davis, he noted this a few days ago, that once pardoned, Hunter can no longer invoke his Fifth Amendment rights, meaning if they call him up to testify, he can't say, I plead the Fifth, because he's not going to incriminate himself. He's already been pardoned. Yeah, exactly. So this is interesting. I think that everyone, including most every pundit I heard over the weekend, said the stimulus to pardon Hunter was Kash Patel being made the FBI director, because Kash Patel has said, being nominated as FBI director, because Kash Patel has said, I'm going after the Bidens. I'm going after that whole corrupt family. So there are a lot of people sweating it out in D.C. right now. I wouldn't want to be one of them, believe me. What are your thoughts? Do you think it's a good idea to? I mean, he promised the country on television. Everyone heard him say, "I will not pardon my son." But everyone who watched that must have known that he's full of baloney.
Yeah, I mean, when he said that, he should have never said it, because now he's held accountable for his words. But I get it. Your son, your family. If you love your kids, you're going to say, "Yeah, you know what? Push come to shove." But he gets up there. He goes, that he was selectively, and wrongfully prosecuted and all that. He's trying to turn the narrative. No, he wasn't selectively. He was out there jumping up and down in the street, waving his hands. So Hunter was a target self-made by himself. That's all there is to it. And a lot of what went on, even Joe, where he sat there and talked about, Burisma and everything, and called him different names in the interview. I wonder. Biden himself has incriminated himself.
That covers all the federal crimes they may have committed, but I wonder, it doesn't release him of any state crimes, right? Like if he committed a state crime in California, is he still liable?
Well, pardoning, isn't that just a federal thing? If it's just a federal thing, you still got civil lawsuits. Well, but
it will be interesting to see how this develops, because when Kash Patel gets in, as well as I do, he's not going to stop looking into the Biden family. He may have to stop looking into Hunter, but Hunter's going to have to testify. And when Hunter
he's a witness,
when Hunter gets up on the stand, he can't not answer, or he'll go to jail.
Well, Hunter incriminated himself in a stupid book he wrote. What else? I didn't read that book, but what else did he allude to? Because anything that he's alluded to or they think he has knowledge of means that he can come in and be an unprotected witness where he's got to come in and talk. He can't, like you said, plead the Fifth.
Colonel Douglas McGregor, who is we've heard his stuff on the show. He's a smart guy. He has a lot of sources, and he said in the past couple of days, and I haven't gotten the audio of this. It's just what I heard. He said, I have contacts in the White House, and what I've heard is that over Thanksgiving holiday in Nantucket, Hunter said to Joe, "Look, if I don't get a pardon, I'm going to put a tell-all book together on the Biden family. It's going to blow everything, the cover off the story." And that was the spark that lit a fire under Joe to put that pardon together ASAP. He actually had to threaten his father. He actually had to. This is what Colonel Doug McGregor, his source, told him. But I wouldn't put it past him. Joe is. We see this quote: "Loving father, loving grandfather." This is the same guy who has never acknowledged his grandchild, Navy, who Hunter had with the woman in Arkansas. He's never, ever said, "Oh, come on, sweetheart, you're my granddaughter, too." They hung, remember when was it the first year where he hung like 6 different stockings at Christmas time on the White House mantle, and they were missing one. That one was Navy. Yeah. So he's not this loving, benevolent kind of guy. He supposedly, when this whole deal started to happen, with Burisma and Ukraine, Joe set it up so that Joe was getting a big slice of the profits. The big guy was getting a chunk of money, and there was he was talking with somebody. I'm talking about Hunter. Was complaining to somebody about the fact that you never had to support your father like I have. He was talking to one of his children, I guess, that I hope you never have to you never have to worry about me mooching off of you like I had to worry about my father, living off of me. That's essentially what he was. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he was saying. So they are not what they appear to be.
Kind of like being in the mob. There's a family, and then there's the family. No matter what you do, no matter what territory you take, now what's my take of this? For your protection from the family, with the family.
I'm doing it because I think of you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm thinking of you. This is from the bottom of my heart, which I don't have, but it's from the bottom of something.
Andrew McCabe, former acting, I guess, FBI director at one time, I think. I know he was deputy director. But always an anti-Trumper, supposedly one of the tools of the deep state. That's what he's been accused of being. Okay, I'm not, but he is not a fan of President Trump. He was on CNN, and he's not happy. I think it was CNN. He was not happy about the choice of Kash Patel as the FBI director. Listen.
Andrew, I just want to start first with you and just get your reaction to this news tonight.
Yeah, well, it's a terrible development for the men and women of the FBI and also for the nation that depends on a highly functioning, professional, independent Federal Bureau of Investigation. The fact that Kash Patel is profoundly unqualified for this job is not even like a matter for debate. So I think what we should really be thinking about right now is what does this signal in terms of Donald Trump's intent for the FBI? The installation, or the nomination, I guess we should say at this point, of Kash Patel as FBI director can only possibly be a plan to disrupt, to dismantle, to distract the FBI, and to possibly use it as a tool for the president's political agenda. And, as an organization, we know what that looks like. This country has been there before, right? The pre-Watergate FBI, the J. Edgar Hoover FBI, struck fear in the hearts of Americans across the spectrum of politicians, people in entertainment, people in the civil rights community, because the director operated at the direction of presidents to collect political intelligence and to utilize the legal authorities, the investigative authorities of the FBI to terrorize and intimidate Americans. So the question is that where we're going back to with this nomination? I would argue that Kash Patel would be the perfect person for Donald Trump to nominate if that's in fact his intent for the FBI.
You know, Kash Patel has been involved with a lot of very important things, chapters of the Trump administration. I mean, when he went after Soleimani, when he went after other people, they were really important events. He's a very experienced guy, prosecutor. The thing they don't like about him is he has said on a number of different occasions that he intends to go after people like Andrew McCabe. I mean, he is made no secret of Christopher Wray, of James Comey. He has said these things. So all of a sudden, Trump has nominated this guy who has publicly said he's going to put you in jail. You know, I would expect to have nothing less than a full-throated, critique of, by Andrew McCabe. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, anytime somebody from the left, Andrew or whoever, comes out and goes, well, he's not qualified. Well, you know what? Humor me a little bit. Explain to me in detail why he's not qualified, because sounds to me like you're just worried that you're covering your own hiney there. And it's the media sitting there doing this PSYOP thing where they're trying to sit there and diminish him and change the perception of him. And they're out there using the media now. They're sitting there spinning their lies and all along, but now they have to spin them to protect themselves, not to win an election, but to save their butts. And you know what? I don't think the media should be so, ready to sit there and interview these guys and talk to them. I mean, they have to, but.
Well, not only that, but, it's not all the media. The media that is really supporting this whole narrative is CNN and MSNBC. You'd expect nothing less from them because they are tools of the left. Case in point, MSNBC had a roundtable on Kash Patel. Listen.
Kash Patel as FBI director would be like if you crossed Alex Jones with J. Edgar Hoover in terms of just how much he would want to ignore precedent and the constraints that have been put onto the FBI over the years. With all of the conspiracy theorizing, all of the eagerness to fan the flames of the worst instincts of President Trump put into power, those two things should never mix. Kash Patel has in both, and he is a couple of votes away from that happening once he's put before the Senate.
A commentator from MSNBC on Kash Patel.
Now, the interesting thing is the left, as they go back and they analyze what happened, they're saying, well, the reason that Trump won is that he went to social media and long-form podcasts, which they had dismissed. And they said, well, that's what we got to do. So now they're going to try to get their social influencers to do long-form shows and get podcasts out there for the next run. They're overlooking one thing. They essentially, with the media, since they owned the whole thing and controlled it, they had long-form shows and network to get it out there. Them just switching over to the podcast side, and even if they control both, is not going to solve their problem, because to coin an old James Carville phrase, it's the message, stupid. Instead of the economy, it's the message, stupid. No matter what you do on the media and you go and do it on a podcast, you're still doing the same garbage, and we'll just go, the John Q. Public will go, no, I'll go somewhere else.
Case in point, about 15 years ago, Rush Limbaugh, giant, number one, owned the airwaves during his time slot. The left wanted to compete against him, so they started something called Air America. Air America was a network of liberal talk stations, and they were going to counter everything Rush did, and they were going to, they said, build up an audience that would be substantial and take away from the narrative that Rush had. It went over like a lead balloon. It went over like screen doors on a submarine. It sank faster than the Titanic. The air, because, like you said, it's the message, stupid. It is what you're saying, not where you say it or who says it. It's the message. They had no message.
Yeah, and to get Air America, because I know exactly about it. I remember that back in the 90s. And the reason I know is Air America was a satellite company. It was a satellite company out of Rochester, New York. I know this because it actually hired me to come in and program the thing. And just before I went, they said, well, we sold the company. What? It's moving to Dallas. Well, do I? No, because it's going to go political talk, and it's going to go to, Democratic liberal talk. And I was going like, oh.
So you were going to program the network before it was liberal.
Right. It was what it had. It was like a satellite thing going up for radio stations, but also for private consumer use, kind of like an XM,
right,
or a Sirius. They had all this. It wasn't far from the airport where the studios were, and it was a very nice complex. Shadow Stevens' brother was in on it, and it was a pretty good crew of people. So I know all about Air America, and I thought, boy, that's gonna tank, and it sure did.
Oh, it was awful, and
didn't they have Franken on it too? Didn't he go on it?
Yeah, he did for a while. Yeah,
because I remember that he was one of the guys that they said, "Well, we got this guy," and I'm sitting there going, "Good luck with that."
You can have any celebrity in the world. Look at. We just had an election, and we had all these big celebrities throwing their endorsements behind Kamala. What did that mean? It meant nothing. I truly believe that somewhere along the line, some managers are going to say, "Hey, look at in the upcoming election, no endorsements. You're going to lose some of your base, some of your fan base." I know, as a matter of fact, I haven't forgotten who basically was supporting the other side. I know how adamant they were. There's a lot of speculation, by the way. Some people like the Rosie, not the Rosie O'Donnell, what's her name? Ellen DeGeneres, packing up her stuff and moving to Europe. There's some other people who are saying maybe there's other reasons for them leaving. Maybe it's just not a political statement. Maybe they're afraid that they're going to get tied up in something they don't want to get tied up in. That's just speculation, but I thought it was interesting. I never thought of that until I started to hear people throw that around. But, there's a lot of things out there in Hollywood that happen that we're not privy to. I mean, I never knew that Sean Puffy Combs had these ongoing parties. We'll just leave it at that, okay? Apparently they were such an ongoing thing that they had a name for it. I can't think of the name right now, but they were, and supposedly you weren't in Hollywood unless you were invited to one of his shindigs. And you see where I have a story here where
Mel Gibson and
no, I have a story about Sean.
Okay.
Yeah, this is. Let me see if I can find it in my stack of stuff. I have so much stuff. It's been a long weekend. A lot of things happen. Sean Diddy Combs sued for alleged sexual assaulting and dangling a woman from a 17-story balcony. Dangling a woman from a 17-story balcony. Man, that takes a lot of
cojones.
Yeah, to do something like that. To think that you're so above the law that you can take another human being and literally take him by the ankles and hang him over a building 17 floors up. I mean, that to me, that is I can't even comprehend that. But apparently, these are the kind of people that they're dealing with out there in Los Angeles. So, and there's a big rumor going around that a lot of the people out there in L.A. They know that they can be connected to what's happening. You're going to see them moving away. You're going to see them moving out of Hollywood.
Well, since we're on Hollywood, there was an interesting story about Mark Wahlberg and Mel Gibson. They put together a Hollywood-like movie production company. And you know who gave them $3 billion to do it? Because these guys are both not woke. Elon Musk.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me at all. That makes a lot of sense. Take somebody who has the resources and turn around and give it to like-minded, experienced, talented men. Mark Wahlberg, great deal of success, and of course Mel Gibson. He's known for being a conservative thinking, spiritual guy.
What is it? The movie The Patriot?
Is that
what it's called?
He did The Patriot.
Instead of doing a one-time, which they were poo-pooing right off the bat, they said, "Well, that'll stink." He didn't go and do a massive, one-day release. He did it in cells. We're going to release it over here. Now we're going to release it over here. So they couldn't just mass blanket, diss it.
Yeah.
And what happened was, it grew as a cult and it started building. And it's a big box office success, and it got the message out.
Yeah, but he
worked around Hollywood.
I think he actually did that with the passion of the Christ. He ran into an amazing backlash in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want him promoting a Christian movie. So Gibson said, all right, he used his own money. I mean, a lot of his own money to produce it. And he used a lot of his own money. If a budget for a movie, let's say hypothetically, is $60 million, that means it costs $30 million to shoot it, and it costs $30 million to market it. That's how they work it. He put a chunk of his own money into that. It was one of the biggest grossing films of all time.
Yeah.
Like $650 million.
And that is how he probably sat there and developed the idea of how he would dance around Hollywood. But now, with $3 billion, they can selectively go out and do some great movies, promote them right, and they don't have to dance around them anymore because they don't need Hollywood.
Well, look, what was that movie, Sound of Freedom, that came out about 6 months ago, a year ago? Sound of Freedom sat on a shelf at Disney, I think, for 5 years because it was shot. It was produced. And the big movie company figured out we're not going to put any money into marketing this. There's no market for this. We'll just leave it on the shelf. Maybe we'll release it as a streaming movie down the road, an also ran kind of film. Well, I think they bought, it was, what was his name? Oh, gosh, I can't think of his name. The star and some other people, they bought the rights to the movie, and they literally marketed it on the internet and promoted it on the internet. I think they started Angel Films. That's the company. And it took off. It spread like wildfire. It was about child abduction. It was about bringing children across the border. It was timely. It was effective. It was well produced, well acted, and it grossed millions and millions of dollars. And of course Disney was like, who decided to shelf that, But they never would have marketed it properly anyway. But
that's right. It gets down to it's the message, stupid. So, that's what it is. But speaking of the message, have you had your cup this morning of Right Side coffee?
It's funny you should say that because in my sweaty little palm is my cup of Right Side. It's so good.
It's delicious.
A lot of people are saying, well, I'd love to have some Right Side coffee, Jim, but I don't know where to get it. Bill, would you tell them where to get it? Tell them where.
Actually, you can go to rightsideshop.com. Rightsideshop.com. There you got the coffee. You got the Daddy's Home shirts, the coffee mugs. We got all kinds of swag for you. So you want to check it out. Plus, you can get the Right Side, the medium roast, and the decaf blend, which they are delicious coffee. You should have some in your pantry at all times. I would buy 2 or 3 bags.
Yes.
And you might say, well, that's a lot of money, Bill, but then you're not going to have to go back next week and get more coffee. You probably won't have to go back in a month or 2.
If you're like a lot of people, you like to stuff stockings this time of year, to hang on the chimney.
I got slapped the last time I did that.
I'm sure you did. But I don't blame her. But anyway, the bag actually fits very nice in many, many normal-sized Christmas stockings. So if you're looking for the perfect stocking stuffer, might I suggest a bag of Right Side coffee? And if you are looking for that perfect gift for that that special someone, that special conservative someone, that special someone who is still celebrating what happened on November 5th, might we suggest Daddy's Home T-shirts, sweatshirts, and baseball caps? We got them there on our site, too. And they're exclusive to our site.
Mm-hmm. What happened on November 5th? He won.
Yes, and Daddy's home.
Yeah, and he's home. And you know what? I bring it up only because as we segue on now, don't forget to get your right side coffee.
Wait, Bill, you got our singers. They're over here going, can we play now? Guys, come on over, if you would, and sing the jingle.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Marvelous.
Thank you very much.
They do such a good job, really. They're really a special group of singers. I think their next engagement is going to be in Mexico City. if Tom Homan has his way. Anyway, you were saying, Bill?
Well, we're talking about November 5th.
Yes.
Something happened before that in Butler. But anyway, there's a artist out of Ohio that has been commissioned by some patriots that are into cryptocurrency. And he's building a bronze 2-story statue of Trump, of that emblazoned hand in the air thing, I believe, that'll be hopefully debuted on Inauguration Day.
Where are they going to put it?
Well, I don't know, and that leads to a Democrat joke. We don't want to go there. But either way,
it's true.
But either way, I don't know. It's commissioned in Ohio. That's where the guy is building it. I don't know where they're going to put it, but I think that's kind of cool.
It is. And I saw the statue picture. He has his fist raised, and it's the fight image of Donald Trump. Kind of nice. I think we'll see more of those things, especially as the new administration grows. I wanted to play some, we played some negative things about Kash Patel going into office, but I wanted to counter it with some people who have a lot of good things to say. Ted Cruz loves the Kash Patel move. Listen.
Listen, I think Kash Patel is a very strong nominee. I think the entire slate of cabinet nominees President Trump has put forward is very strong. I believe every one of these cabinet nominees is going to be confirmed by the Senate. I think Kash Patel is going to be confirmed by the Senate. You look at his background. He has a serious professional background. He was a prosecutor. He was a public defender. He was a senior intelligence staffer on Capitol Hill. He was a senior intelligence staffer in the White House. He was the chief of staff of the Department of Defense. He was the deputy director of national intelligence. And I got to say, all of the weeping and gnashing of teeth, all of the people pulling their hair out are exactly the people who are dismayed about having a real reformer come into the FBI and clean out the corrupted partisans who sadly have burrowed into senior career positions at the FBI. The FBI and the Department of Justice are two institutions incredibly important to the rule of law in the United States. I revere both, and one of the most tragic consequences of 4 years of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is both DOJ and the FBI have been politicized and weaponized, and I think Kash Patel is a very strong nominee to take on the partisan corruption in the FBI.
And then, of course, Senator Bill Haggerty was on, I believe, Meet the Press with Kristen Welker, and he had this to say about Kash Patel.
I've encouraged President Trump to bring Kash Patel to the table for precisely this reason. Unlike Jake, I understand his resistance to talk about Kash, but I'm more than happy to talk about him. He represents the type of change that we need to see in the FBI. If you think about the failures of background checks that have taken place, how could we have somebody like Colin Kahl who tweeted out classified information? I went to the FBI myself. They ignored me. Basically, he was confirmed on a party line vote in the U.S. Senate with Kamala Harris, breaking the tie to put this person that should not even have a security clearance in the third most powerful position at DOD. You've got Rob Malley. I don't know how he cleared an FBI check. He's now under investigation. His ties to the Iranian influence regime that worked with him and for him. Ariane Talatabi, who is still at the DOD, should never clear an FBI background check. This entire agency needs to be cleaned out. It's not doing its job. And if you look at what happened, the politicization that took place back in 2016, when senior leaders of the FBI collaborated and conspired to try to keep President Trump out of office. And then when he came into office, they put together this fake Russiagate investigation administration that hindered the Trump administration in the first several years. Look at 2020. Look at what happened there with the fake Hunter Biden story. That the FBI leadership worked together with big tech to censor the Hunter Biden laptop that allowed President Biden to basically fool the American public and come into office. There are serious problems at the FBI. The American public knows it. They expect to see sweeping change, and Kash Patel is just the type of person to do it.
Senator Bill Hagerty and a big supporter of Kash Patel. Patel has said he's going to go in there. He even said the first day I get back there. Now, I'm sure this is something he can't do immediately, but this is the kind of statement that drives those in Washington nuts. He said, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to close down the FBI building, the Hoover building. I'm going to take all those agents who are doing desk jobs, and I'm going to send them all over the company to be cops. Because first and foremost, they're supposed to be cops going after crimes and arresting people instead of sitting around pretending they're politicians and trying to, go up the political chain ladder, towards better jobs. He wants them out working. And I think that must strike fear into the heart of a lot of people who've gotten very comfortable in D.C. But he says he wants to return the FBI to its rightful mission, protecting the American people. Which is really the mission. When you think about what they were doing, Bill, think about this: they were arresting pro-lifers. They were supposedly, and no, admittedly, they were actually spying on Catholics. They would have people who were moles that would go into Catholic churches and squeal on people who they thought were against their way of thinking. Like that was like the KGB used to do, back in the 60s and the 50s.
Well, isn't that what they're accusing us of what they do as a general rule.
Absolutely.
They're accusing that we're going to be coming after them, Julie Roginski, she's saying stuff like that, we're going to go after her and kill her while they protest, the deportation of illegals. And, whether you want to call it Trump's rhetoric or his promise that he's going to go after people with tariffs, and I have thoughts on tariffs too, Canada and Mexico. Well, all of a sudden, they're at the table going, we don't want those tariffs. They want to maybe see if they can negotiate. So that's a good thing, don't you think? He's not even in office, and he is making these not waves, but these
heads of state, come to Mar-a-Lago and genuflect.
Yeah, they're coming. Well, they're coming to the table to say, okay, let's talk. Let's get this figured out, because they don't want to wait until he's in office, because if they wait until he's in office, they're really not going to be happy with the result.
That's true.
So let's just resolve it now.
You mentioned Julie Roginski. Let me a little background. She used to be a commentator on Fox, a liberal commentator on Fox. And then I guess they offered her more money to come over to CNN and be a commentator over there, which is where she went. And she has an interesting background. Her family's from the Soviet Union. She was born in Moscow. She came over here back, I want to say, between 1980 and 1990. Family originally emigrated to Vienna, and then another city, and then they came to the U.S. You would think they would come here, full of patriotism and even conservatism, because a lot of people who leave that kind of a life, they come over here and they embrace conservative values, because that's essentially what they are, because they've had all of their real, principles and values taken from them in Moscow. They know what it's like to live under socialist oppression. But she comes over here, and I guess maybe she was too small. She doesn't remember. So she's this leftist liberal, person who is, I was going to say something, but, that's serves no purpose. Julie Roginski, she goes on, I think she was on CNN, and she made this comment about what happens if Tom Homan sends in the different ICE people to remove people from places like the Roosevelt Hotel in New York and stuff, in these sanctuary cities, because she plans on protesting with thousands of other people. Listen to what she says.
Promise you with every fiber of my being, because I'll probably be one of those people,
that if anybody comes for these people and tries to drag them out by force, there will be protests of people like me, American citizens, who are going to stand there and do everything possible to prevent these women and children, which is all who these people are.
How about the criminals?
How
about the terrorists? How about the
But how do you sort
Stop.
through
How do you know who it is?
How do you sort through
That's the problem. I don't know who.
Stop. I'm sorry. I live next to these people. I can tell you there are women and there are children. Are there terrorists among them? I don't know. But I can tell you that there are.
And neither does the government.
But I can tell you.
But let me out.
Okay, but what I'm telling you right now, practically speaking, is that there will be people, American citizens, who will prevent these little kids from being dragged out of these shelters. There are. And what's going to happen to these people? What is going to happen to the military when the military opens fire on us?
No one's. Okay,
hang on one second, Chuck. We're way down a rabbit hole here.
That's crazy stuff. First of all, Julie, see, this is the problem that we have with our media today. Okay, amongst a lot of problems, we have allowed people who aren't terribly smart, put them in positions where they pretend to be smart. You know, they pretend to have the answer. No, Tom Homan hasn't talked about shooting any American citizens. There's been no discussion of attacking Americans. There's a lot of other things that can be done before you even get to. Now, mind you, if the crowd starts to attack the ICE people,
you shoot at me and I got a gun, I'm shooting back. But if you're sitting on a stage with a bully horn, I may not like it, and I may send someone up to say, "You don't have a permit to be here. It's time for you to get off the stage." And that's what she's doing. She's using the network as a bully horn. She plans to go out and protest and use a bully horn, but she's got no Democrat word gravitas, substance to back up her mouth. Yeah, because she's spewing crapola.
Yeah, this is nonsense. What's going to happen, in my opinion, is Holman is set. Well, let me put it this way. It's a bit of a long cut, but it's worth listening to it because this is Tom Homan over the weekend. He was interviewed, and he was talking with Kellyanne Conway on Fox. She has a show on Fox on the weekends, and they were talking about what his plans were and what's going to happen. And I think it's better, instead of paraphrasing the guy, let's let him speak for himself.
Tom, welcome to the show. Would you please comment on the specific granular plan that Sarah Carter has reported on, how in fact you're going to use trains, planes, and automobiles to repatriate these illegal migrants back to their home countries?
Well, as Sarah said, look, me and Governor Abbott, we're not waiting until January 20th. I've been out to Texas. We're already meeting. We're planning how we can work together to help Texas, secure their border at the highest level ever. He's done a great job. Illegal immigration in Texas is down 86% because he put in place a lot of Trump's policies, right? He's building border barriers like President Trump did. He's adding consequences to those who cross the border illegally. He's arresting them with trespass. And people need to understand DPS has done a lot. Not only is Governor Abbott's action protecting Texas, they're protecting the United States because most of these illegal aliens aren't staying in Texas. They're moving out of the country. Every ounce of fentanyl those troopers sees is less overdose deaths. Every person they arrest for trespass is one less getaway. So they get fingerprinted, they get vetted. At least we know they're not terrorists. But we're going to follow that model across the southwest border. But my plan is, and I've been very vocal about this, we're going to contract as much work out as we can. Work that doesn't require a badge and a gun, because I need badges and guns on the street to do the deportation operation. So when it comes to driving bus transportation, whether it's ground or air, whether it's processing, whether it's some other administrative duties, contract that work out. Because right now we got badges and guns doing that work. Get them out of that administrative work, put more on the street, and that's what we're going to do. And if these sanctuary states and cities keep pushing back, I'll have the extra resources to double manpower in those sanctuary cities. Because if we can't arrest a bad guy in the jail with one agent, it means I got to send a whole team out in the field to find this person. And for officer safety reasons, we need a whole team rather than just one person. So this is the plan we're putting together, and Governor Abbott's come to the table. He's the first one to come to the table, and I accepted it and shook his hand and said, let's go, let's move forward, let's do it.
Tom, I know that you often talk passionately about the humanitarian crisis that is our border crisis. You have some of these Democrats don't seem to care, and when babies are drowning in the Rio Grande, don't say a word about it, including our border czar Kamala Harris most days. We don't hear them talk about the 10-year-old boy being abandoned by the smugglers, the 2-year-old girl left by herself, 2 years old, Tom Homan. And yet I feel like they're waiting for their photo op, and they will resist the efforts that you and President Trump are trying to put forward and make sure that they're showing the big bad evil guys are separating families and people are crying, they're being deported. Bring us forward a little bit. What will this look like? Will it be orderly? Will it be humane? How are you guaranteeing that? Because you're already getting so much resistance from the same mayors and local officials who know this has been draining their resources, know how angry their residents are about illegals coming there getting cash and debit cards and cell phones and clothing in hotel rooms in a place here like New York City, let alone a New York City school child's desk in a classroom. Tom, how will you do it in a way that people know you adhere to the law, this is enforcing the law, it is humane, it is fair, and it is just and legal?
Well, look, open borders are not humane. The only thing on that border right now that is humane are the men and women wearing that green uniform. They save thousands of lives every year. I've seen these men and women give CPR to babies that were thrown into the river by the cartel, because when they're chasing the boat of a smuggling load, so what the cartel members do, throw the baby in the water, then the border patrol have to jump in the water and save that baby rather than arresting the smuggler. Look, I've held dying children. I've held dead children. I've talked to little girls as young as 9 that were raped multiple times by criminal cartels. The border, open borders, cause death. They cause a rise in sexual assault of females and children. Under this administration, open border, sex trafficking is up over 600%. The number of people off the terrorist watch list is at a historic high. The amount of fentanyl coming across the open border have killed over 250,000 Americans. And that's just what open borders does. When President Trump had the most secure border of a lifetime, illegal immigration down 90%. When 90% less people were coming, how many babies weren't dying? How many women weren't being sexually assaulted? How many no-inspected terrorists didn't make in the country? How many pounds of fentanyl didn't get in the country, kill Americans? Secure border saves lives. But and that's where the humanitarian piece comes into place. Under Joe Biden, historic number of aliens have died crossing that border, 4,000. 250,000 Americans have died. The open border policies are killing aliens at record numbers, killing Americans at record numbers, and we're going to put a stop to them. We're going to secure the border. As far as sanctuary cities, I find it hard to believe that any mayor or governor wants to push back on ICE, because the president's been very clear. Right out of the gate, we're going to concentrate on public safety threats and national security threats. What an elected official wants to tell his constituency, I'm okay with public safety threats in my community. I don't want ICE's help to remove these public safety threats. That's their number one responsibility, is the safety and security of the public of their communities. If they don't want to do it, ICE is going to do it. And with all the death threats and all the negative press for now, they can keep screaming all they want. ICE is going to do this job. I'm going to do this job. We're going to make these communities safer, and we're going to enforce the law. And if they don't want to help, instead of deciding don't help, fine, don't help. But don't get in our way. And I've said this for the past week over and over again. Do not harbor and conceal an illegal alien, knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from us, because it's a crime. Don't impede us, because it's a crime. Don't obstruct, because it's a crime. If you want to sit aside and let us do your job of securing the communities, fine, we'll do that. But don't cross that line.
Tom Homan, you were a great colleague of mine and ours in the first Trump term, and you're one of the first appointees that he named, because he takes very seriously the need to do everything that you're describing. And Tom, when I interviewed you for my Here's the Deal show on Fox Nation, you made very clear that Biden and Harris really were the first administration in a long time who didn't make moves to secure the border. In just the remaining seconds we have, can you tell the audience why that would be? What commander-in-chief, what president, vice president would take steps that don't secure a border? Why?
He was the first president in history of the nation who came in and unsecured the border on purpose, not because of mismanagement, not because of incompetence, by design. They want this open border. They obviously think these millions of people will be future Democratic voters, but also he overturned the Trump census rule, which millions of people in sanctuary cities recounted in the next census. And what does that mean? More seats in House for the Dems. But I tell you what, the Trump team coming to town, we're going to take control January 20th, and people are going to be held accountable. We're going to be very transparent. We're going to get behind. What did the United Nations have to do with this open border crisis? Who in the administration, the Biden administration, opened the doors on this humanitarian crisis? What NGOs were involved in this? We're going to be very transparent to American people, and we're going to tell them the truth, what happened on this border. Again, by design, and we're going to let the American people know who was involved, why, and hold them accountable.
Tom Homan, thank you so much for joining us. The incoming border czar for President-elect Trump. Thank you.
Tom Homan with Kellyanne Conway. And, a little background. A lot of people don't know what Tom Homan's background is, but he he, I believe, was a small town cop in upstate New York initially when he first got out of college. I want to say in West Carthage, New York, or someplace in upstate New York. And but that was the beginning of his law enforcement. Then in the mid-'80s, he took a job, I believe, with the Border Patrol, and that's where he got his Border Patrol experience. And most of the people that as a matter of fact, I have heard nobody say bad things about the guy. They say he knows Border Patrol. He knows how it works. And he knows the law. The thing that got me is that I was thinking about this while that clip was playing, Bill. If a president knowingly and willfully committed a crime like that, letting people into the country, breaking the law, is that not treason? And can't he? Why isn't it that nobody's talking about bringing him up on charges and putting him in jail for doing this? I mean, literally, and all the people who helped him, like Mayorkas and things. These are people who have allowed and promoted the breaking of law and committing a crime.
One thing that I would think right off the bat is there may be intent to, but why would we talk about it now so the left can poo-poo it and attack it and make everybody afraid of it? So in other words, let's get into office and then go in and, get our agenda together of what we have to do. And I would agree with you.
Yeah.
It is something that should be thought about and done because it makes sense. But if we talk about it now, chances are we put it on the table, someone's going to figure out how to scramble and dance around it.
Yeah.
So why give them?
And the thing is, some people will say, well, Biden's so old, you wouldn't want to pull it. And
I would.
Even if we didn't put him in jail, even if we didn't put him in jail, even if we take into consideration that the guy is, he's restricted mentally right now because of his age, I think we should find him guilty if he's guilty. And I also think that maybe you put him on house arrest for the rest of his life.
You put everybody on notice that is under him in that family of crime, in that network of crime. They're on notice. Plus, you go after him, he might sit there and spill the beans on stuff you didn't connect the dots on. So, you go after him. He's earned the privilege of being prosecuted.
Yeah, I think you have to make a statement that when they raise their right hand and take that oath of office, they vow to protect the laws and the Constitution of the United States. And then doing what they did at the border was the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
I mean, think of all the people literally who have died as a result of that decision. People who have died on fentanyl. They say in the hundreds of thousands. Children who've been trafficked and women who've been trafficked across the border. People who have drowned and people who've been murdered. People who've been abused as a result of that decision. I don't know how you just can turn your back on that. And I don't think that Trump is going to. I think you're right, Bill. I think it would be stupid to show your hand right now. I think he's keeping his cards close to his chest.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Matt Gaetz, all right? And, he was thrown out there, and we knew that he was a lightning rod for the Democrats. And so they came back with old stuff, and then they said, well, we have this person's coming forward. Although there is actually a big, big story behind it that now is going to be opened and exposed, that is going to take down a big network of people. Now, Matt has also sat there and said, I'm going to go after corruption in Congress because he was in the den. So he knows everybody's sins and transgressions, money that they get that they shouldn't be getting. He knows it. He knows where all the skeletons are in the closet.
And you know what they're talking about? They're talking about making him a special prosecutor in this administration.
So was he not basically he was shark bait?
Yeah,
exactly. And he got them he got the sharks to circle around, and he's and then they didn't force him out. He jumped out and said, "Okay, there they are."
It's funny.
And by the way,
Elon Musk, richest man in the world. When you have resources like he has, you have a lot of clout. He has given his approval of Kash Patel's nomination for FBI director, spelling trouble for GOP senators who do not vote to confirm him. They said if they don't, he said to them essentially, if you vote against Kash Patel, if you're a rhino and you vote against him, we're going to primary you. And it means a lot when the richest guy in the world says that, because essentially what he can do is give a candidate who is up against you all the financial backing that they need to win. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Kash Patel it gets the support of Elon Musk. Interesting stuff, Bill. What do you think?
Well, I think it's great. That he, because I saw that story. I do have a feeling, though, that I think that anybody that wants to run for office, there should be, a certain criteria that you go through to get there. But Kamala was proof positive. She raised, $1.5 billion, ended up $20 million in debt. And even after that, she's still raising money for what? I mean, how financially corrupt was that and is that? And there's Democrats out there, well, we got to spend more money. I'm almost, to the point. It used to be that any candidate that wanted to be on the radio could. There was the equal time rule, so we had to throw our time limits out the window in the broadcast media. But I believe there's some places where you run, everybody gets equal footing. It doesn't matter, Now, I don't know if I'm just saying there needs to be certain election reform. That's the only thing I'm saying.
He put Brendan Carr, FCC commissioner, he made him the head of the FCC in his next, and apparently he's a conservative and was one of the only conservative voices in the FCC, but he was really overwhelmed. But he'll be in a different position now, heading the FCC. Victor Davis Hanson was on over the weekend talking about Trump and his success with minorities in the past election, Bill. Trump, he tore a lot of barriers down. People don't realize this. He brought down a lot of walls of separation between minority groups. They started to think as just Americans and voting for the same thing as all of us. They weren't the block of people that the left has always made them out to be, the minority groups. Victor Davis Hanson had some interest. You want to say something before I hit
Well, no. Do the Victor, and then I've got, some thoughts on that.
The marquee theme was he was able, for the first time in my lifetime, to replace racial tribalism with class solidarity. In other words, he said to people, if you're a Mexican-American truck driver, if you're a black electrician, if you're a poor white carpenter, you have more in common with each other than you do with your elites on the bicoastal domain. In other words, the people at Stanford University do not represent the working man in Michigan, or the Latino, La Raza, Latinx media spokesperson does not represent the people I'm living around right now here in the San Joaquin Valley. And that was a radical idea. And if you look at the actual data from the 2016, 2020, and 2024, he really didn't increase much the white working class or the white vote at all. And he was about the same. He went up a little bit with women, but where he made unbelievable gains were in Mexican Americans, Native Americans, Asians, and African Americans. And had he not made those gains, he would not have won. And that's what they do not want to confront, because that's the keystone of the Democratic Party: victimization, victimizers, oppressor, oppressed. And they have this kind of Marxist binary, and people don't buy into it. And especially minorities don't buy it. They don't like, I think a key signature thing real quickly was in Obama. It was an iconic moment when he took those African American activists, very intelligent young men, and took them to the side and said, you don't know what's good for you. You're a captive to racism and sexism, and I can tell you what your real interests are.
Yes.
That was kind of revealing.
It was so condescending and patronizing. Yes. And it was he may as well have said, you have to vote for Kamala because she's black like you. And actually, I think you've brought up a great point, which is, I think, a lot of the voting for Trump in the end was colorblind. They just weren't voting because because of ethnicity. They were voting for a common shared concern about big issues, which Kamala Harris simply wasn't able to articulate any meaningful policy about. And I always say to people, whatever you think of Trump, his position on things is very crystal clear. You know, there's no ambiguity. He's one of the great marketers in the history of politics, and you know what he stands for.
That's Piers Morgan. He had one of America's greatest conservative thinkers, Victor Davis Hanson, on his program, and he really did. He made an interesting point. He said to these minority groups, you have more in common with each other and with Trump than you do with these people who say you're just supposed to be pigeonholed into these minority groups. You know, I mean, the black minority and the Latino and the whites who believed in making America great again. They had a common bond, and they all believed it because Trump sold that. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I was going to say that was one of the proud moments that I had when, I was worried about the election. And I had a lot of negative thoughts on it because the media out there that's controlled by the left, and the narrative is controlled by the left. You have to vote this way. That's just the way it is. People overrode that, and instead of voting for party, they voted for the common good of man and mankind. And so, forget about the negative things that are said about Trump. There's a lot of psyops, where they psychologically try to, change the way you think and perceive Trump. Vote for what is good for you and good for anybody else. I heard a Democrat operative crying and boo-hooing that they lost and by such a big margin. And I'm going like, I've always thought one of the inherent problems that we had is the two-party system. You got to vote party, party, party. What you do with these two parties is you have two different ideological directions or at least consensus of where we should go, but they should all be rooted, to the core of American values, but there might be some differences. You primary for those guys, and whoever puts the best candidate forward, you're not afraid to cross that party line. And democracy happened in this election when 96% of the people said, no, I support Trump because he supports me. They saw through the bull, the BS.
Yeah.
And they voted. That is democracy. That's patriotism. So for those that crossed over the line, I'm proud to stand with you because you sat there and saw what I was seeing. I have voted on the other side of the fence when I felt it was the right thing to do. You shouldn't be afraid to do that.
Victor Davis Hanson, his background, in case you aren't really aware, he is a graduate of University of California and also got his PhD at Stanford, which is it's a liberal Ivy League school. Smart guy. He's a professor emeritus from Cal State Fresno, and he's now, I believe, like a senior fellow at the Hoover Institute. And he's always on television as a contributor because the guy is just so articulate and thoughtful and has some. It must be awfully hard for a guy like him to be in that environment, that leftist environment all the time, because he's a professor in big leftist schools, so he's in the definite minority. I think I read a statistic that said 94% of all professors are liberal. So that means you have 6% in the country who are conservative. Holy,
it's probably
smoke.
Less than that.
Yeah, you're probably right. I was seeing where Trump wants hostages released by Hamas by Inauguration Day. He's already put that out there. He said, look at all's well and good with these peace treaties with Hezbollah and stuff. I want our hostages, and I want them before I get into office. I wonder if that'll happen. What do you think, Bill? You don't think he has that kind of clout?
Well, they're probably considering it, and probably considering what they can do. So it depends on what they think their options are. If I were them, I would just say this. I wouldn't wait down to the wire of the minute. I would probably give back the hostages and see if I could sit down with him and try to negotiate whatever it is they think they want.
Here's what we know right now: the Biden administration is acting as an anchor, dragging its feet, supporting Israel, not giving them all the stuff and all the support that they really need to execute this military move in Gaza. And I mean, they're getting some, but not as much as they should get to make this thing end quickly. And I think what they should be afraid is if Trump gets in,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's gonna say, all right, look it, I gave you a chance. Now I'm going to throw the full weight and might of our country behind Israel. This thing is going to end one way or the other real soon, So
well, Biden's trying to get points too, and he, Biden never does anything right, full-fledged.
Oh, do you remember, Bill, when they built about a year ago? The Biden administration thought they were going to work both sides of the street. They were giving some support to Israel, but they decided they were going to build a pier in Gaza, and that was so they could bring food and supplies in to aid the refugees.
Mm-hmm.
They spent $3 billion building this pier.
Money so well spent.
And then shortly after they built it, they had a storm come by, and it blew it away. Exactly.
Good. Yeah. So $3 billion. Got you some river wash there. Just it's gone.
Exactly. Next. Now he does have a problem. They used to say before he was president that if you want to figure out what the right thing to do is, ask Joe Biden and then do whatever do the opposite of what he suggests, because he's always wrong.
You got to think. They put a budget together, $3 billion. Now, for $3 billion, I could have built a hell of a bridge that would still be there.
Yeah.
And I'm not a bridge builder.
I know.
But Joe probably sat there and looked at it and said, okay, we got $3 billion. Okay, what's the minimum cost we can build that bridge for? And who can we divert all this other money that we save on it to?
You're such a cynic. Yes. You're right. Isn't that awful?
Well, think about it. I mean, how much does steel cost? The steel, the beams, and, everything, the infrastructure of the bridge, the concrete and everything, and the labor.
I mean, they used to build in World War II, right? After they took Normandy Beach, like a day after they took the beach, they had the construction workers come in, the construction units come in, and they literally built piers on the beach so that they could have ships come in and offload troops and supplies. And they started to use Normandy in that area as, an offloading port of sorts. It didn't cost them anywhere near $3 billion. I mean, it probably cost them a fraction of that, and they worked.
Compared to today's money, no, they didn't even spend a fraction of what they'd spend today if you brought it forward. So,
you see where South American gangs are targeting professional athletes' homes in robbery sprees? Have you heard about that?
Yeah.
People like I think Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback of Kansas City. I think he had his house broken into. It says recent burglaries of Kansas City Chiefs star Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, according to a memo obtained by NFL.com, are just two examples of athletes whose homes have been targeted. And I guess the NFL came out with a memo saying, hey, guys, there's something going around where they're going after athletes. And I guess there are only two of many who've had this happen to them. So, because they know on Sunday between the hours of 11 and 6, nobody's home for the most part.
Well, it's interesting they're targeting them because it's easy to target. But there are cells all over the country. And if you don't believe it, there's maps out there, just like an election campaign, who won what state map, where these people are. And they have pretty well blanketed the United States, which means you leave and your home is unattended from 9 to 5. Let's say 11 to 3. It's kind of open. How do you know that they are not sitting there watching? They see what you bring in. They see what you go out with. They see what you drive. They see what kind of home you have, and they don't, and they know where people hide stuff. Come on. They're professionals at this. They know if you got a safe where it would be. They know if you've got some jewelry stashed where it would be. They know this and that, or things that they can blackmail you with. They know where to go and find it. So,
Bill, the thing that gets me about this, though, is that these guys are worth so much money. You would think that they would have an elaborate security system or security guards in place to protect these properties. Because, by the way, if you want to see an amazing home, look at the pictures of Patrick Mahomes' place. He's got a gorgeous home. He's got like a golf course, so he and his friends can come over and play golf on Patrick's course. I think it's 9 holes, but I mean, who's really counting? He's got half of a football field, 50 yards of a football field, so guys can come over to his house and practice.
Yeah, they can. Okay, so you're talking about their security, and why don't they have great security, right?
Yeah.
All right, let me ask you a question. So you win the lottery, and you got $300 million after everything.
Right.
Because it was $1 billion.
From your lips to God's ears.
Yeah, and you got the $300 million that you're going to go, I don't trust the banks. I'm going to have a floor safe built, and I'm going to put my money in that, and I'm going to make sure I know the combo. You're telling me that somebody that installed that, might, he's a good church-going guy, and he's not going to say anything, or maybe it's a company that's contracted some illegals, or whatever. You're saying that it's secure. You trust the people that put it in.
I think what I would do is if I had $300 million, after I had an amazing party with friends and family, right, I would find it's insured to what is it, $2 million now or something? It used to be $250,000, but I think they increased it. I would find loads of banks around the country. I would put the maximum amount that I could put in to keep it insured in each one of those banks, and you might end up having 150 banks that your money's in, but at least it's all protected.
Well, I would probably do some research. Go buy myself a jackhammer. A lot of concrete, the vault. I would go privately buy it somewhere, and I'd probably put the hole in the floor myself.
Oh, man.
And build the network. At least they wouldn't know where it was, and they wouldn't know how to get into it. But, that's what I would do.
I think you make yourself a target when you do something like that, because you can't keep that a secret. You just can't do it. I've thought about that. Not that I have anywhere. I don't have that, but you think, well, nowadays should you have something in your own house? And then I thought, no, you have to rely on other people to do that. And as soon as you do that, you might risk yourself the word getting out that you for example, if you build a floor safe in your basement. Right? Someone has to come over with a jackhammer and break the concrete. Another guy has to come over and dig the hole. Another guy has to come over with the safe, and place it in place. I mean, you may have 5 or 6 people who know that you have a safe in the floor there.
And every one of them has somebody they confide in, who has somebody they confide in, who has somebody they confide in.
Every one of them has somebody who they can confide in?
I'm the guy with the safe. What'd you do today, babe? Well, I took this big safe over where they're building a floor safe. Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
And then she tells her girlfriend, my husband was working on something where she had to take a safe over and install it. That girlfriend goes and says, I know someone. And all of a sudden, well, who was it? Oh, I think it's... Marty Rubble down the road, he hit that lottery. Oh, yeah.
Our good friend Marty Rubble, yes. that rich guy, Marty Rubble. Oh, my gosh. I think you have to rely on banks and vaults and security. Although, if there was a crisis, if we were attacked or something like that, you'd have a hard time getting your money out of banks. Banks might close down.
Now that brings up another topic. There's going to be a new a cryptocurrency czar, because Trump is
I saw that,
appointing, a guy for that's got some experience in the background, because it is the future, and that's where things are going. And I don't even know that we're going to be dealing with cash anymore.
Yeah, but the only thing is, Bill, I just can't get over the fact that the computers can be hacked, and
computers can be hacked.
Yeah,
yes, they can.
Internets can be hacked, and you saw that over the weekend, right? Didn't you see that over the weekend? There can be glitches, and there can be people who have nefarious objectives, and you can have things hacked. And what happens if you have all your money in crypto, and all of a sudden you can't? Somebody has a glitch. Instead of having 6 figures, you have 2.
I had some thoughts over the weekend. It's probably a marketing thought, but I was thinking about computers and AI is getting more sophisticated. And as AI gets more sophisticated and becomes free thinking, they were talking about, computers now can sit there and perform, computated experiments with biological things. So they can make biological weapons, and think of things that have never been thought of before, and have all the studies, because we program all that in, they become free thinking. Computers can actually sit and get to a point to where we don't need mankind. Computers could actually release a virus attack on us. Computers could sit there and control our currency, and sit there and say, these people are the problem. Why don't we just go ahead and get rid of them? We'll attack them on a couple of levels here. We'll take their money away so they can't, go and buy the medicines they need, and we create a virus. And I'm sitting there going, are we getting so sophisticated to where you have a society where, if you're a business guy, listen up, we're powered by people, not machines. In other words, take pride in the fact that you're people driven. And
but and I was thinking, if AI can do all of that, if you own an AI system, can you have AI make you wealthy? Can AI actually go out and figure out a way of making you rich?
There are people that know how to read, like some people know how, like somebody goes to Vegas, they know how to count numbers, so they know how to play the cards. All right? So are you saying that AI can't do that? It would know how to do that.
I'm saying,
so it would know.
I'm saying, could AI on the internet go out and figure out a way of taking a penny from every person's account around the country? If you took a penny from every person's account around the country and put it in your account, you'd be a rich person.
Well, I'm sure it could. It could probably find a way to shave 2 or 3 cents from every account in every transaction. And you could create a billing program that does that and make sure that it's legal and legit. You could skim a lot of money.
And I think that's going to happen. I think you're going to see where AI is going to be used by the bad guys too to make themselves wealthy. And
it could be used by stocks, and that's where crypto comes in. Cryptocurrency has no ceiling because it's not backed by gold or anything like that. It's all virtual. It's all pretend.
Hey, did you have a nice Thanksgiving, by the way? I didn't ask you.
Yeah, I had a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't have a great Thanksgiving. I don't know. Did you hear what happened to Arnie?
Oh, didn't he? Didn't he have like a fake bomb scare where they had to come in and swat him? Swat him.
He was swatted over Thanksgiving. On Thanksgiving Day, I believe, someone called and said they had placed a bomb in the Terminator's mailbox. And I guess that kind of ruined the day for Arnold, because I guess everybody converged on his estate. Everybody with a gun and a badge was there.
Well, he's not just an actor; he's a former governor. So
yeah, that's true. True.
Yeah, and even though he's conservative, he's not a Trumper.
Nope.
I think he's misguided on a lot of things. It'd be interesting to see how he feels now about things, because California is la la land. I mean, you got a senator out there that is. Wait, do I have a note on the guy that?
Padilla is his name. His name is Padilla.
I'm trying to remember what it was from California. It says that they have no obligation to help deport illegal aliens.
Yep.
Now, I grew up in California.
Yeah.
One of the biggest problems that we had when I was a youngster and a teenager there and a young adult was the fact that we had a lot of illegal crossings. And we had, the agents there to take them and get them together and take them all back across the border. It was a constant thing. Now, California's completely turned around. No, come across, stay here.
Well,
yeah.
I think
why?
I think Senator Padilla got the memo late because you heard about the Denver mayor.
Mm-hmm.
The Denver mayor said he was going to stand pat and going to protect the illegals in his city. And then I guess it was Kathy Hochul in New York said she would stand pat and protect the illegals in New York State. And then Tom Homan came out and said, "Oh, okay, really? Well, we'll put you in jail. I mean, if you want to go to jail, we'll put you in jail." And suddenly, they must have had somebody in their legal departments actually read the law to them, and they kind of reversed themselves. The Denver mayor, he didn't himself say it, but one of his aides said, "Well, the mayor will abide by all the laws," and also Kathy Hochul she took a step back from her statements. So I think what they're starting to realize is this guy Homan, he means every word of what he's saying. If you are if you're going to break the law, whether you're a governor or a mayor or a senator, you're gonna go to jail.
And if they got sights on him to say, well, if we get rid of this guy, it'll be smooth sailing. It's another one of him standing right in the background to take his place.
Yep. It's interesting. People don't realize this. We may have talked about it last week, but Trump said in his transition, "I'm not taking any office space. I'm not taking any money from the government. I'm going to use our own offices, our own phones. Everything's going to be done, I think, out of Mar-a-Lago."
Mm-hmm.
And what does that mean? That means the government can't eavesdrop and influence his transition. So the people in the deep state in Washington are finding out what's happening with the new administration when the rest of the country finds out.
They're mad about it, too. They're going, this is not the way government works. Well, you know what? It's worked a certain way, a very slanted way for years.
Yep.
And, it was never meant to have lifelong positions, but you've got people there that have been entrenched for years. So I get where they're going. It's not the way it works.
No.
It's not the way it's supposed to work. Let's understand that. What you have now is not the way it was intended, and it's been abused. So, unfortunately, whether you're a good egg or a bad egg, he's got a clean house.
Yep.
And I got family in there that's going to, they're already on a tear, getting out of there, and going somewhere else. I'm going like, sooner or later you're going to have to look at the whole picture. And just because you got a government gig doesn't mean, it's not, the nightclub doesn't want to have the same band all the time.
I wouldn't want to be an FBI agent right now, especially if Kash Patel gets in as director. If I'm an agent in D.C., I would probably think about finding a real estate agent because you're going to be moving to other cities. You're going to be a cop again because the director has said that.
Well, if Trump does what he wants to do, there won't be offices, or a big contingent of people in Washington. So, D.C. is going to get a shrinkage in taxpaying citizens if they pay taxes.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, a reminder, Right Side Coffee available at rightsideshop.com. It's a great Christmas gift. And also you can find our T-shirts, our cups. You got to see it, folks. At least go to the site and check it out. It's rightsideshop.com. Rightsideshop.com.
Can't go wrong when you go right side. It'll make you do the right thing every time. Unlike, we ought to send some to Hochul in New York. They just passed a law there where they legalized adultery. Why the hell even get married if it's illegal to sit there and screw around? Then why get married?
Well,
why not just
that may be.
And just think about that. You can raise the taxes on everyone. Well, This is a state where you can do adultery, so marriages have all been voided and nullified. You're single again.
I think
you pay.
I think, Bill, people are getting fed up with the politicians.
I think so too.
I think you're going to see. I think this election was just the beginning, not the end. I think you're going to see subsequent elections. I think 2022, if Trump has success, and he has a lot of weight, his endorsements will probably carry the 2022 elections this time around. Usually they're the flip flop of what the like in 2024 it was Trump and the conservatives, and I think they're afraid that in 2 years, was it 2026, that the elections may swing leftist again. I don't know. I think this may be different. Anyway, we almost forgot Jose Juan and the border crossers. They every time we seem to forget them, they look so forlorn over there and so sad. I feel really bad. Guys, come on over. Yes, we didn't. You may have thought we forgot you. We didn't, guys.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Marvelous. Okay, now we'll go back to the corner and just wait for your next opportunity, which is in 24 hours. Anyway, are we done, my friend?
Oh, we've been done. I got a fork sticking out my side right now.
Really? Well, put a fork in it because he's done. Have a very wonderful day, folks, and with a little bit of luck, we'll be back again tomorrow to do it.
All right. So there's only one thing left to do, and that is hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
This is CRN America.